The rain hammered relentlessly against the tiny kitchen window, a rhythmic drumming that matched the chaos inside Sarah's heart. The old apartment smelled faintly of damp wood and boiled potato acid, the only food she had been able to stretch for dinner that night. She sat hunched over the scratched wooden table, her phone trembling in her hands as she scrolled through a sea of overdue bills. Electricity, past due, gas, final warning, rent, 3 months behind. Her stomach tightened as her eyes landed on the small pharmacy receipt tucked between the envelopes. Ethan's medication, his inhalers were running out. He had already been wheezing more often, his little chest rising and falling in uneven gasps at night. The doctor had warned her, don't miss a dose. But what could she do when her wallet held only a crumpled $20 bill and loose coins? Sarah rubbed her face, smearing away the tears that wouldn't stop coming. At 29, she had imagined life differently. She had once dreamed of finishing her nursing degree, finding a stable job, maybe even buying a small home where Ethan could play in the yard. But those dreams had evaporated the moment her ex-husband walked out, leaving nothing behind except debt, disappointment, and a child too young to understand why Daddy didn't come home anymore. She worked double shifts at the diner down the street, her feet aching by the time she stumbled home. The tips barely covered groceries, let alone the medical expenses. Each day was a fight between exhaustion and survival. And tonight, the walls seemed to close in more than ever. She picked up her phone, her vision blurred by tears. Her best friend, Julia, had always been her rock, the one person she could vent to when everything felt unbearable. Sarah's thumbs flew across the screen, her desperation pouring out into words. I can't do this anymore. Julia, a broken bar. I feel like I'm failing Ethan. The rent is overdue. The landlord threatened to evict us, and his medicine, God, his medicine is almost gone. I don't even know if I can put food on the table tomorrow. I wish some Ania would just help us before it's too late. Her hands trembled as she stared at the message. It was raw, humiliating, but it was the truth. She had sent before she could overthink it. A second later, her blood ran cold. The contact name wasn't Julia's. In her fog of tears, she had tapped the wrong thread. Panic shot through her. Who had she just sent that to? She scrolled up quickly, realizing it was an unfamiliar number, a random string of digits. No, a broken bar, she whispered, pressing her palm to her forehead. Stupid mistake. Her face burned with shame. Whoever received that message would think she was crazy, or worse, pathetic. She imagined some stranger smirking at their phone, laughing at her desperation. She typed out a hurried follow-up, sorry, wrong number. But the reply never came. The silence stung almost as much as her situation itself. She tossed the phone aside, burying her face in her hands. For hours, she sat there, the rain outside becoming a dull lullaby to her exhaustion. Finally, she dragged herself to Ethan's room. The small boy lay curled under a thin blanket, his curly hair damp with sweat. His breathing was light but steady for now. Sarah knelt beside his bed, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. I'm so sorry, baby, she whispered. Mommy's trying. I promise, I'm trying. Her tears fell silently onto the blanket. She kissed his cheek, then slipped into her own room, collapsing onto the mattress fully clothed. Morning arrived with a pale gray light filtering through the blinds. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets outside slick and glistening. Sarah woke groggy, her back aching from the uncomfortable sleep. She forced herself up, already rehearsing how she would ask her boss for another extra shift. Maybe she could skip meals again to make Ethan's medicine last longer. Maybe she could sell something or her old laptop, maybe even her wedding ring she had hidden away in a drawer. She was mid-thought when a sudden, firm knock rattled the front door. Her body tensed. Nobody visited her. The landlord usually shouted from the hallway instead of knocking, and Julia always texted first. Wiping her face quickly, she moved toward the door, her heart pounding. Another knock came, deep and steady. Who was it? She called, her voice sharper than intended. There was a pause, then a man's voice, calm, rich, and authoritative. Are you Sarah? Her pulse spiked. She hesitated, clutching the doorknob. Yes, a broken bar. Who's asking? Alexander Grant, the man replied. I believe you sent me a message last night. Sarah froze. The wrong number. The stranger. Oh God. Her first instinct was to slam the door without even opening it, but curiosity and confusion forced her to twist the knob. The door creaked open just enough for her to peek out. Standing there was a man unlike anyone she had ever expected to see on her doorstep, tall, broad-shouldered, with perfectly combed dark hair and eyes that seemed to read her soul in a single glance. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, its fabric too fine for this neighborhood, and a sleek black coat glistening with droplets from the earlier rain. In his hand, he held a small white envelope. Sarah's throat went dry. "Yeah, I don't understand. Why are you here?" His gaze softened. "Because sometimes, life sends us messages in unexpected ways. I received yours, and I couldn't ignore it." She blinked, trying to process. "That was a mistake. I didn't mean to send it to you." "Maybe," he said gently, "but perhaps it wasn't a mistake at all." Her breath caught. She tightened her grip on the door, half ready to shut it, half paralyzed by the surreal moment. "What do you want from me?" Alexander extended the envelope toward her, his expression earnest. "Not what I want, Sarah. What I can give. If you'll let me, I'd like to help." She stared at him, her heart thundering in her chest. She didn't know whether to run, cry, or believe that maybe, just maybe, this stranger was exactly what she and Ethan needed. And as the morning sun broke through the clouds behind him, painting the hallway in gold, Sarah had the unsettling feeling that her life was about to change forever. Sarah's hand trembled as she held the edge of the door. The sight of the man standing there, the stranger who looked as though he had stepped out of another world, was almost too much to process. His voice carried calm authority, yet his words were laced with something she hadn't felt in years: sincerity. Her instinct screamed at her to shut the door, to protect herself and Ethan from whatever this was. But there was something in his gaze, something steady and unshakable, that rooted her to the spot. "I don't understand," she whispered, her throat tight. "You don't know me. Why would you? Why would you come here?" Alexander Grant's eyes softened. He wasn't offended, nor did he look impatient. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as though trying to ease her fear. "You're right, I don't know you. But last night, when your message appeared on my phone, I felt something I haven't felt in years." Your words were raw, desperate, but also filled with strength. "Most people would have begged for escape. You didn't. You begged for help for your child." At the mention of Ethan, Sarah's chest tightened. "Donna, don't bring him into this, please." "I'm not here to hurt you," Alexander said quickly. He extended the envelope again, his hand steady. "This isn't charity." This is a broken bar beginning. "Let me help you get back on your feet. No strings attached." Sarah's eyes flickered to the envelope. She could see the edge of bills inside, crisp and thick. Her stomach twisted. She imagined Ethan's tiny hands clutching his inhaler, imagined a warm meal on the table, imagined the landlord not pounding on her door with threats. But with the images came a wave of suspicion. Life had never handed her miracles before. Why now? Why him? "I can't take this," she said firmly, trying to push the envelope back. "I don't even know who you are." A faint smile curved Alexander's lips, though it wasn't arrogant, it was almost sad. "Fair. Then let me tell you, my name is Alexander Grant. I'm the founder of Grant Enterprises. You may not follow the business world, but a broken bar, let's just say money hasn't been my problem for a long time. My problem has been purpose." Sarah blinked at him. The name stirred a faint recognition. She remembered reading a headline months ago about the Millionaire investor, the kind of man whose net worth was written in numbers she couldn't even imagine. And now he was standing here, in her crumbling apartment hallway, offering her help. It felt impossible. "Why me?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Out of all the people in the world, why would you show up at my door?" Alexander's gaze held hers with quiet intensity. "Because last night, when I read your words, it felt like the universe put them there for me. I've spent years in boardrooms, signing deals worth billions, but none of it ever made my heart beat the way your message did. It wasn't just desperation I heard it was courage, a mother refusing to give up on her son. That touched me more than anything else in a very long time." Sarah's knees felt weak. She leaned slightly against the doorframe, her emotions warring inside her. Part of her wanted to believe him, to grab the envelope and cling to the hope it offered. But another part, the scarred part, whispered that people like him didn't help people like her without expecting something in return. "Look," she said finally, her voice shaking, "I don't need saving. I've managed this long on my own. I can't just a broken bar let a stranger walk into my life with promises." Alexander nodded slowly, as though he had expected her resistance. "I respect that. I wouldn't trust me either if I were you. But let me prove I'm not here to take advantage of you. Let me help Ethan. If, after that, you want me gone, I'll disappear. You'll never hear from me again." The sound of Ethan's cough from the bedroom shattered the tense silence. Sarah's heart lurched. She glanced over her shoulder, torn. Alexander's expression softened even more at the sound. "You don't have to decide right now," he said gently. "Just a broken bar. Let me bring groceries. Let me get his medicine filled. That's all." Sarah hesitated, her hand tightening on the doorknob. Her pride screamed at her to refuse, but her love for Ethan drowned it out. Slowly, with a shaky breath, she opened the door wider. "Fine," she said, her voice barely audible. "Groceries, medicine, nothing else." Alexander gave a small nod, his relief subtle but genuine. "Nothing else." Hours later, Sarah found herself standing in the kitchen, staring at bags of food that filled her tiny counter. Fresh fruit, vegetables, milk, bread, even small treats Ethan hadn't had in months. Alexander had been true to his word. He returned from the store with enough supplies to last weeks. Ethan, curious about the stranger, peeked shyly from behind Sarah's leg. His big brown eyes studied Alexander with both suspicion and wonder. "Hey, buddy," Alexander said softly, crouching down to Ethan's level. "I'm Alex. I brought some puzzles. Do you like puzzles?" Ethan's eyes lit up despite himself. He glanced at Sarah for approval, and when she gave a cautious nod, he inched forward. Alexander handed him a colorful box, and soon enough, Ethan was on the floor, dumping out the pieces with childlike excitement. Sarah leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching the scene unfold. Her chest tightened as she saw Ethan laughing, a sound she hadn't heard in weeks. Alexander wasn't just polite, he was patient, guiding Ethan through the puzzle, letting him make mistakes and cheering when he placed the right pieces. "You don't have to do this," Sarah murmured quietly when Alexander looked up at her. "I know," he replied simply, "but I want to." She didn't know what to say. No one had wanted to in a long, long time. That evening, the apartment felt a broken bar different. The air was warmer, filled with the smell of food cooking in the oven, a real food, not just instant noodles or leftover scraps. Ethan sat at the table, chattering to Alexander about superheroes and cartoons. Alexander listened as though every word was precious, nodding with interest, laughing at Ethan's jokes. Sarah stood at the stove, her back to them, tears threatening to spill again, but this time, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of something she had almost forgotten how to feel, hope. She turned, watching Alexander help Ethan pour juice into a glass, his suit jacket draped casually over the chair, his sleeves rolled up. He looked nothing like the man who had knocked on her door hours ago. He didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like he a broken bar, someone who belonged. Her heart swelled painfully. She whispered to herself, maybe mistakes aren't always mistakes. And in that moment, as laughter filled the small kitchen, Sarah realized that the wrong message she had sent might have been the right miracle she and Ethan had been waiting for all along.